Powered by GoGoat Sports in partnership with TSN. This is episode 43, season 4 of the Rain Dregs Hockey Podcast. It is presented by our title sponsor, Canadian Club Whiskey. We've got ESPN NHL rules analyst Dave Jackson, who's going to join the program, Ray, coming up shortly. I like that element that those analysts bring to any broadcast. In this case, I think Dave Jackson is excellent. But, you watch NFL, okay, there's a quirky call on the field, whatever. They bring in their rules expert, and whether you like it or not, at least you're getting an official's perspective and an explanation of what's going on. And I also we'll talk to Dave about this, how he engages on social media. And you and I have kind of gone all over the place with this, and you more than me have settled on, why would I bother to respond to anyone? Because it just raises my level of aggravation. So I'm curious to get Dave's take on that, because he corrects people's position and takes, even media people, not just hockey fans, but he does it in a very accepting and informative way. He's not engaging in battle. He's just saying, I understand why you feel that way, but here's the right answer, so to speak. So it's looking forward to the chat.
He's a really sharp guy. Of course, I don't know what he's going to say, but I'm assuming there's a time I called him a jackass or three on the ice.
Shocking.
Yes, shocking. I'm sure there's a time he told me to beat it, because that's really Dave's personality on the ice. And so, but what is really cool is we've had a couple of debates, Dregs, on the air, like during games, where I see a play. Yeah. My job's to make an evaluation. And then while I'm making that, we hear in our ear from the producer, bring in Jax. And so then Dave comes in and he talks. Now we debate it on the air. It's really kind of interesting, because it's an ex-player and an ex-official. There's times like I'm just wrong. And so I want to ask him about, how many times did a guy argue a call with you and it was clear the guy didn't know the rule?
Yeah.
Because it must be all the time. Because I remember yelling at the linesman one year about, not just me, our bench, yelling in preseason about an offside. And the linesman turned around during the play and goes, they changed the rule. And we were like, the whole bench went, oh, we missed that one. We had no idea.
Yeah. But that's my case in point, though. Okay, you and I have had some debates on and off the air over time. And I've also sat with you in situations. You're not much different than me. There's nothing wrong with having a healthy debate, even an argument, right? You're entitled to your position and your opinion. And in your case, when it comes to hockey, it's an educated opinion, an educated analysis. But what you don't like, I don't like, and most people don't like, is somebody just saying, no, you're wrong. Well, okay, I guess. Can you explain to me?
I'll tell you, what really hurts is when Jax goes, no, you're wrong. And he tells you from the rule book, and then you go,
oops, better luck next time.
I am.
All right, Dave Jackson, rules expert for ESPN, is our guest on the Rain Dregs Hockey Podcast. We'll get to headlines here, Ray, but quick throat punch. And this is my annual throat punch, right? And it has to do with snow removal. Has to do with snow removal. Again? Yeah, again. So
how's your front yard?
Yeah, not great. And that's part of it. So look, I can understand the city's job here. Where my house is, it's right beside a ravine, right? So there's no house to the north of me. So I guess that's the end of the line for the sidewalk clearing from a city perspective. And then it becomes a responsibility of all of my neighbors that are to the south of me. I get that. But you don't have to rip up my front yard in clearing and then go through the front of my driveway and leave that big pile of snow. So that's part of the issue. But my issue more today is with a private snow clearing company. I don't have one. I've got the snowblower. I like it. I enjoy doing it. It's the closest thing for me to a tractor, and there's my Western Canadian roots, so I enjoy it 4 or 5 times a year. Right across the street from me is an older couple. This guy's had several bouts with cancer. He's a tough dude. He's hanging in there, but they need to get out on a moment's notice, right? I mean, his wife needs to be able to jump in the car and get out for health reasons, right?
Right.
At least third time this year. So I'm going to say, as we're recording this, it's 9:39 Eastern in the morning, 8:15 a.m. I'm out there, and I've got to quickly clear a path so Holly can get out to go to work. And look, I've got a bit of time, so I have no problem going across the street and helping my neighbor out. But she literally comes out to say, "Hey, do you mind just clearing a path so I can get my car out? You know, Steve hasn't been doing very well." Okay, so if you're the snow clearing company, the private company, is that one of the first things you ask, Ray? Is there anybody sick in your home? Because I've got to make my priority list of calls here. I'm starting at 5 in the morning.
Right.
Do I need to get to your house? Are you the first 10 stops I need to make? You know, instead, because last time it happened, I helped her out. She had to get to a medical appointment at 2 in the afternoon, and Buddy wasn't even there by 4 p.m. in the afternoon. So whoever it is gets a throat punch from me.
Well, that doesn't seem very customer service friendly. That one.
Well, I hope
they're lucky. They're lucky. Good for you that you go over there
Well,
and help them out. I'm going to tell you a quick little sort of the same thing. So my uncle, as this was many, many, many years ago before he passed away, he had the house that they grew up in, he lived in. So my dad and my uncle and aunts and grandparents. And so it had a pretty big yard. So they had small house, big yard, like kind of the old style. And so they had this guy who would come and cut the lawns, right? Once a week, he would come and cut the lawns because my uncle wasn't able to do it anymore. So I'm back for the summer and I was staying in one of the rooms of the house for a few weeks.
Yeah.
And I'm in the NHL by this time. And so it's like 7 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and I hear the lawnmower like right outside my window. 7 o'clock, you know, he's pulling the old gas mower too. The thing sounds like it's an airplane. So I get up, and because I'm up now, and I go outside. I'm like, "Hey, Bobby," the kid's name was Bobby. He was like 25, whatever. And I go, "Hey, Bobby, do you not have somewhere else? It's Saturday morning. Do you not have somewhere else to cut, like not like outside my window?"
Yeah.
And he goes, "Well, what do you mean?" I go, "Well, like, do you do the lawn at Webster School?" And he's like, "Yeah." I go, "It's Saturday. Nobody's there. Start there." But it never occurred to start there. I'm like, "There's nobody there. You can cut it at 4 in the morning if you want."
That reminds
like,
me
"Oh,
of and this has nothing to do with your Italian heritage. The Sopranos episode where, what was his name? White Walls there. Paulie. Yeah.
Paulie.
Where he goes to his mother's house and there's some yard keep that's happening and Buddy chirps him and I'm probably mixing stories, but doesn't he beat him with a spade?
Well, it could happen. We didn't get to that. We didn't get to that.
All right, good stuff. Let's check in on our headlines. And we're going to start with Vegas and the Ottawa Senators, and not because of the magnitude of the trades, although the Vegas Golden Knights moved Shea Weber's contract to the Arizona Coyotes. I mean, not chump change remaining on that deal. Ottawa essentially pays Chicago to take Nikita Zaitsev. And these are trades that matter to those teams because it's setting up for something else. We don't know what something else is. I think we can kind of look at what the Vegas Golden Knights are likely going to do, and that's add something of significance, right? They need a forward. So is it Timo Meier? Could it be Patty Kane? I mean, go down the list of possibilities there. So when you see trades like this happen, I know what my timeline is like. People are like, "Oh, great, you know, one of these trades. Nobody cares. There's nothing sexy about this." But these are the trades that actually matter because they lead to something else.
Yeah, I would say I don't like the trades because I don't think you should be able to move a retired player's contract.
Yeah, dead money.
And that all goes back to a bigger conversation about whether there should be a little exit ramp on the cap. But that goes into hockey-related revenue. I mean, man, once you start down this rabbit hole, man, you're in it. You're in the weeds deep. And that's a discussion for the Players Association and the league, and it's not going to happen, anytime soon. I do find it really interesting that there is an actual analytic cap value
Yeah.
for each of these draft picks. So they didn't just pick a number or didn't pick a draft pick, that fourth round pick that went in the Leafs deal that Minnesota got.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't just pick that out of the air and go, oh yeah, it should be about a fourth round pick. There's an analytic of the dollar value and the year of the draft.
Yeah.
It's like, it's really quite detailed. And there probably was a time when a few teams were ahead of the game and they could prey upon a team that didn't have that capability to understand what that cap space was worth. But those things, those dollars matter. If you've got cap space, you know, we hear it all the time, weaponize your cap space. Well, if you've got the cap space, you can weaponize it. You can use it. And I don't think it'll be the last one that happens between now and next Friday.
No. And look, you know, that's why I keep thinking of Winnipeg, right? Because Winnipeg is a team that has cap space. And if they're not in a position to add a significant player, then, you know, maybe they can broker something where they end up with a player that has some term because there's a team out there that's in a bit of a pickle. What do you think of Patty Kane, right? You know, is Ollie's there? I see. Anybody watching?
Oh, Ollie just came in. Ollie ran in 6:44. I can tell you 6:44 means Cammie's not thrilled.
Oh, no.
Because that means Ollie just, which probably means that I was a little loud when I was getting.
Yeah. See, this is the reason people need to subscribe to our YouTube channel, because if you're listening to this, they can't see you hunkered over. See, that's why when Tiny comes into the office, you guys could see my shoulder and my arm moving, but I don't have to bend down because Tiny's right there. I got
to tell you, for all people that everybody has a dog or doesn't have a dog or whatever, has a family pet or doesn't.
Yeah.
And Dregs, you know how I've been on this for years and years and years. I cannot believe what an unbelievable addition to the family Ollie is. I just, man, you read it all the time. Like they just make you so happy.
Yeah.
You're like, you see him and you're like, hey, Ollie.
Yeah.
And then of course you see that he's got, you know, your shoe that he's chewed into a whatever. Yeah. And you're like, he's the best.
And any of the boundaries that you thought you would have in place in, they're out the window because you don't want the dog on the couch, but all of a sudden you're there watching a hockey game and Ollie crawls up next to you and you're, all right, yeah, this is okay. I could live with
it. The one thing I constantly get from Cammie is, do not give him any food. I kind of like it.
Yeah, of course you do. Okay, hold on. Ask Cammie if she would like to eat the same thing every day, 3 times a day, or how many times. Of course she wouldn't. Of course she wouldn't.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure do you not think a dog looks at that and goes, again, seriously? Yeah. Stop it. Mix up something in there.
My buddy Phil and I talk about this all the time with our other pals. Like, come on. What's a pizza crust to Tiny? And it's a 135-pound dog. It's not that big.
He'll be good.
Anyway, let's get back on track here. You know, I talked about it on Insider Trading on Tuesday night. And you know, I hope we're not dating the podcast. Well, I kind of hope we are, because if we find out news on Patrick Kane, it may not be a trade. It might be Patty Kane saying, yeah, I know I'm pouring goals in, but I want to be healthy next year. So as of Tuesday, actually, let's forward it a bit. As of yesterday, Wednesday, Kane still hadn't given direction to the Chicago Blackhawks or to his agent, Pat Brisson. I want to be traded or I don't want to be traded, and I'm going to get this thing fixed so that I'm good to go in training camp. So he scores another 2 goals in that 4-3 comeback for the Chicago Blackhawks over the Dallas Stars. I mean, Dallas has to be reeling, right? They're up 3-0. And then Kane and Max Domi take over with a pair each. Every goal that this man scores, Ray, if you're in that market for a top end piece, and, you know, we mentioned the potential of say, Vegas, or could it be the Rangers with Patrick Kane, finagling, doing cap gymnastics, maybe Toronto, go down the list. If you're in that market, have you seen enough in the fact that he continues to pour it in the net that you're not worried about the hip? You're not worried about any of that?
I'm worried about it, Dregs, because the story has been there long enough that what if it goes wonky 3 days after I make that trade?
Yeah.
I mean, I would be worried about it. It doesn't mean I wouldn't do it, but I would be worried about it. You might know this. Say Patrick Kane decides, okay, I'll go to Team A.
Yeah.
Can Team A do a physical on him?
Well, they have access, as you would know, to all of that information, right?
Right. So they would be able to, but they wouldn't be able to get their hands on him.
That's a good question. I don't have the answer. I don't think so, but I will tell you this. And the reason I'm thinking of Jack Eichel and the trade from the Sabres to the Vegas Golden Knights. And I know how involved Pat Brisson was, with permission from Buffalo, obviously, in making sure Vegas had all of the detailed information.
Because I know, like, this past winter, there was a baseball free agent, Carlos Correa, who signed 3 contracts because the first 2, the physicals came back wrong. And the third one was with Minnesota, which was the team he was with originally, and they ended up with a different contract.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious that, that would ease my mind if I could at least have my doctor even fly there to take a look at him do. But they must be able to get their MRIs and things that they have done before. That would be my only question. Here's the other thing: is Chicago can say, we want this price, we want that price, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
However, if you've got one team that you're willing to go to, then you got a problem,
right?
Because that's going to be all you can do. If it's 2, like if it is the Rangers and Vegas, which would seem to be 2 teams that I would think would be near the top of Kane's list, then maybe you can finagle a better deal out of the thing. But man, he sure looked good, didn't he? How about this 2 nights in a row? Chicago's involved in a goal that happens like at the buzzer, but doesn't count. Kane's in overtime.
Right.
And then it was Tyler Seguin that scored about a half a second too late last night.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's crazy that it could be. And here's the thing without replay, Dregs. Those probably both count without replay.
Yeah.
Because they're too close to tell. You would have been, it's in. And
yeah.
Remember we used to stare up, the green light went on or the red light went on or whatever it was.
And then the NHL would make sure that the networks aligned, right? The network's clock was accurate, and they'd go back on that. So, I mean, the only one who wouldn't have been happy with the outcome of that game would be Kyle Davidson. He's trying not to win hockey games, so you may want this deal with Patty Kane going out the door sooner rather than later to get back in the Bedard sweepstakes full throttle.
Yeah, those point streaks for Arizona and Chicago really weren't helping much, were they?
No. Speaking of, all right, we've talked about this on the pod before. So Jake Chychrun continues to sit out. You've got Vladdy Gavrikov with the Columbus Blue Jackets, again, continuing to sit. I was going to ask if you're surprised this is allowed, but I mean, those players are property of the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Arizona Coyotes, and they can dress whomever they want. For me, it just throws in the face of, are you dressing your best lineup, which is always strongly encouraged by the National Hockey League? And I know teams that are directly involved are pissed off, especially those who are fighting for a playoff spot, either in or out, right? And they're looking at these teams that are playing Arizona and Columbus and going, well, that's great. They don't have their 2 top defensemen in the lineup. Or is this much ado about nothing at this stage?
I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm all in favor of holding a player out for trade protection. What I'm not in favor of is it's now bucking up on 2 weeks for a couple of these guys. I mean, I think it's ridiculous. Either, what are you going to do? Hold them out for a month? I guess technically they could.
Yeah.
Right. And so when does that become too much? When is it too long? When does it just look ridiculous? And also, if you're the acquiring team, now you're getting a player that hasn't played in 3 weeks. It's like he's injured.
Yeah.
Now you got to wait for him to it just doesn't feel right.
All right, last one. Just a real quick thought, and we'll wrap up headlines here on Tuesday's game. Obviously, a tough start, tough period for the Buffalo Sabres against the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah.
But, what an explosion by that newly constructed line of Ryan O'Reilly, Mitch Marner, and John Tavares. So, with the empty netter, Ryan O'Reilly ends up with a hat trick. Mitch Marner is a 5-point night. Terrific performance by John Tavares. You got to temper your expectation. You're not going to see anywhere near that game in and game out, but that is a pretty impressive show of chemistry between those three guys, and obviously Buffalo wasn't as ready as they needed to be.
No, that was that was an interesting night because that there's a bunch of Leaf fans that go to the games in Buffalo now. They can certainly get back over the border with regularity, like they could in the past. It's O'Reilly's first game back in Buffalo, where he as a Leaf, and all those things fit together, and then they just explode out. He scores 2 goals really quick. O'Reilly's just good. He's just his brain is his biggest asset. He just seems to know where to be, and I would say that's probably at the top of the list for Tavares as well. It's not his foot speed. It's not his strength. It's, he's strong on the puck. They're both strong on the puck. They don't really go 100 miles an hour. Well, they don't go 70 miles an hour. They just kind of get to where they're going. I'm going to say Mitch Marner is he a top 3? Well, he's a top 5 MVP candidate for sure.
Yeah.
There's just no question. He should be a player in consideration for the Selke, although wingers don't win it very often. He's just had an amazing year. And so if you're 2 really smart players, you get the puck into his hands as much as you can, and then let him do his thing. And man, they looked pretty damn good. I will say 2 things can be fact. They looked really good, and the third period didn't look very good when they gave up 3 goals again.
Agreed.
And so those, I still think there's something that they need. I don't even know what it is, but something they need on the back half of their lineup, the defense, or another goalie option, or I don't know. The defense, I think, is where I'd target before anywhere else.
Well, there's definitely an appetite, and they have the assets to do it. So it has to be all-in approach for the Toronto Maple Leafs.